Hello everybody, this is Artie Batman-Gelich, Chairman of AIM North America Healthcare Committee. I'm delighted that you've joined us for this presentation by Matrix IT, where we delve into the use of the UDI in a surgical environment, where the data is captured through scanning within the surgical suite and is then tested against the GoodID and GDSN for accuracy, and how Matrix IT has created the system to use the content in downstream systems for health records, billing, and other business-related activity. Enjoy and provide some feedback to us whether you would like to see additional content in this regard. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining this presentation. My name is Larry Donnelly. I'm the CEO of Matrix IT, and we have Pat Cairns. He is our Vice President of Marketing and Sales, and Brandon Donnelly is the Chief Technology Officer. So Brandon will all kind of chip in and participate, but I'm going to turn it over to Pat right now.
Okay. Hi everybody. Thanks for allowing this opportunity to meet with the group and present Tractus to you. If you want to, we're kind of working on a couple different computers here, so Brandon, if you want to forward on to the next slide, please. So essentially what Tractus is the scanning solution for implants and documentation of implants into the patient's EMR in the OR setting. And so what we're going to demonstrate here today is a little bit about our scanner, talk a little bit about its capabilities, as well as talk about the actual stakeholders and what their benefits are with this. So we'll go ahead and start our video, and what you're going to see here in this video is the actual scanning of spinal implants that have a 2D data matrix that is about 3 millimeters squared. And when you see the light flash on and off, what that's going to simulate, or what that is actually doing, is taking that information, parsing that information, and then sending it to our proprietary software, which integrates the data or the UDI information into the patient's EMR. So these are pedicle screws here that you're watching. This is the actual Tractus device here. It is a Bluetooth. Completely wireless, and has a battery in the front end that will scan up to, 24 hours. It'll scan one product a minute for up to 24 hours, and it has a quite a bit of capacity in terms of length of time for surgery. So what you're seeing here with those lights is that as that light flashes, that is an actual capture of the UDI information, and then parsing that information into the patient's EMR. This is an example of the 2D data matrix on a pedicle screw of what we were doing, and that's approximately 3 millimeters squared. In our next generation of scanners, you're going to see here is we're going to be moving to less than 1 millimeter capabilities of scanning, and this is less than 1 millimeter data matrix here. So as that light flashed and scanned that actual implant, that medical implant, what you'll see is it would send that information over to our proprietary software, and this would be controlled by the circulating nerves. So what you see on the left-hand column here is you see an interbody spacer, a cross connector, and a pedicle screw. So for our example here today, those three items were actually scanned. And the way this software will work, and we're going to show you a demo, Brandon's going to show a demo of how this would work, but the circulating nurse would actually drag and drop those devices into the correct anatomical model level, and then that would be memorialized into the patient's EMR. So Tractus, if you're wondering, consists of 3 essential elements. There's a sterile scanner, which you saw, and for that sterile scanner, you're probably wondering, how is that sterile? There's an actual drape that goes over that, much like a drape. They would drape a C-arm, and it has that clear cap that goes over, so that would be attached to the drape. For the purposes of the video, we removed the drape, and it's because that would have a lot of reflective qualities, so we removed that. But essentially, the Tractus drape will go over the scanner, and then that would be placed either by the re-sterilized sets for spine surgery or trauma or for orthopedic cases, and then that would be sitting in the sterile field in a wireless setting and then transferring that information. We're also going to have, or also do have, a non-sterile scanner for those items that are delivered to the OR that are in sterile packages directly from the manufacturer. So that would allow us to capture every implant in the OR setting to transfer that data into our proprietary software. So as you can see here, one of the nice things about all this is that since it's all in the EMR, you have total accuracy of documentation of the medical implants. And as everybody knows, we've been concentrating very strongly on the manufacturing process and things like that. We want to focus that attention to the patient and documenting those implants, and that's primarily what we would like to do here. So manufacturers, why is this important for manufacturers, as Larry alluded to before? And waiting for the screen to catch up here. Manufacturers can validate and verify their direct part mark and grade that according to its quality. And by putting a Tractus scanner into the manufacturing facilities, you're essentially simulating scanning with the actual device that would be used in the OR. And the other thing that it does is it establishes the device's pedigree, and essentially that item is now born and has a pedigree, so therefore counterfeiting this device would be nearly impossible because we know where that product is, and then that could be associated with any kind of tracking software that would be used by the manufacturer. Okay. Moving on here to the hospitals. What are the benefits for the hospitals? Number one, I've been in medical sales and device sales for 30 years now, and one of the things that was always frustrating for me is that after the day's cases, I would have to go home and manually enter in all this information into a computer, or reconcile this with my inventory, but I'd also have to manually input information about that patient to my company that I'd be working with. And we all know that when you enter a human element into data entry, there are going to be mistakes made, whether it be different types of ways you could call a patient like Chris or Christopher. Those things would be separate entries at a manufacturer, and this takes all of that out of play there. The nice thing here is that since it is automated, you have accurate documentation of what was used and how it was used in the OR, as well as can you imagine what happens with the billing of this and the accuracy on that. All that stuff, all that information is in the EMR, and reports can be generated immediately on that. Patients, benefits for patients, obviously. Patients want to know what they have implanted, and they'd like specificity, and that's what this provides. And if there are any recalls, patients can access the Good ID, and they can check to see if their devices have a recall on them. And in terms of notifying patients, whether it be by the manufacturer or the hospital, that can be done efficiently. Regulatory, from the FDA's perspective, it's really great to have a direct part mark on items, but it's even better if we take that data and we can do something with it. And that's why this is important, is that you now have accurate information on what's implanted in patients. So for recalls and for post-market surveillance of product performance, we are now able to do that. Technical, just a little bit more about Matrix IT is it's made in the United States, it's sourced here, assembled and developed here. It has a platform that is upgradable. and there's an intelligent design behind it so that it can learn different systems, as Larry talked about before, and that it's a very simple system to use, which you're going to see here shortly. So, Tractus here, a little quick facts about Tractus. It is the world's first sterile field implant tracking device. It does provide accuracy by eliminating the human error. We do train, and we will do the training in the institutions on this. The software is customizable depending on the needs, as well as it helps with the documentation and actually helps with the FDA UDI final rule. With that, what I'll do is we're going to go right into our presentation of how the software is used so that people can have a better understanding of that.
Hi there, everybody. This is Brendan Donnelly. I'm going to go on ahead and pull open the software, and this is a demo version of what would either be installed on the supplied tablets or would be on the computers in the OR. This system is fully compatible with the Windows x86 or 64 architecture, iOS, such as an iPad, or even an Android device. All of the updating, as Pat and Larry were alluding to, happens on the local server side, which means that the application can dynamically update without having to do anything or to have any kind of tedious update processes. So the cool part about that is that the software is always updating and improving without having to go through kind of the Windows Update automatic restarting process that you find. So we're going to go on ahead and start a new case. And what I'm going to do is simulate as if we were scanning a patient wristband. Now, keep in mind that this information can automatically be inputted, but let's say that we scan and the identifier and the barcode shows 123, patient John Smith. Well, all of his information that was scraped from Epic is going to be put in the fields for verification and validation purposes. For surgeons that we can attach to the operation and to the implants, we can go on ahead and select from a pre-filled list, or we can do manual data entry. In this case, we're using good old Dr. Surgeon Jones. And if there are any pre-surgery notes that need to be inputted attaching to this case or with Epic, we can go on ahead and type those in. Now, it's important to note that this solution can either be used with a keyboard and mouse, or it can be used via touchscreen. We have a whole bunch of different search functionality and search features from this particular side, which means that if we're trying to dial down into a specific human anatomical part, we can either search in the search field and it'll show kind of like a Google search result with what we find and some pre-filled selections for quick selection, or we have a guided system that will go through and we can eventually get down to different body parts. For today's demo, we're going to go on ahead and do cervical and thoracic, and we're going to start the surgery. Now, let's say that before we start the surgery or during the surgery that we actually wanted to add another zone. Well, we can simply and easily do that just by hitting Add a Surgical Zone. The software automatically remembers which surgical zones were already selected, and so let's go ahead and add the lumbar and sacral. And we can jump right back into the surgery, and kind of like your Google Chrome or your Internet Explorer, we have a nice system of tabs that can be utilized. So working off of the cervical model, we'll go on ahead and drag a inner body spacer, and we can go on ahead and put that in, say, C1L. And what that's going to do is that's going to have all of the implanted inventory, and just to preface this, the unassigned inventory is, we have items already in here to simulate whenever an item is scanned. So whenever an item is scanned, the information of that particular part gets passed from the actual Tractus scanner to the Tractus software via Bluetooth. And that information populates with an item image and the item information right in the unassigned bucket. Now, the cool thing with this is that we can go on ahead and verify that the parts, if they're assigned to a region, stay in that region, and that's what's going to get transferred to Epic. So let's say that we have that assigned to C1L. Let's say that we're going to put a pedicle screw in to L5L. So we can just click and drag. Very simple, very easy, and it goes straight in there. And let's say that there's a multi-region item, and you're going to tell me inevitably, well, Brandon, what if we want to do a, in this case, we're going to do a cervical thoracic fusion of with a cross connector. I know that it's not anatomically the case, but just for the sake of argument. So we can go on ahead and we can put it in multiple zones, and we can jump to additional tabs, and the software automatically keeps track of all of the zones that this item is attributed with. So when we hit confirm with the multi-zoned item, well, now it's not only in T1L, T1R, but if we jump over to cervical, we can see that, oh, hey, it's in C6L and it's in C6R. Now, any unknown items that have been scanned, and this is going to work with the later versions of our software, will appear as an unknown item. So manufacturers that aren't adhering to the GS1 data standard, we still want to be able to scan in their inventory and be able to have the nurse have the raw data placed on the patient chart. The cool thing with the software is that it is intelligently learning, so if something is unknown the first time around, then we can go ahead and capture the information, and we can have that data and that imagery cross-reference the GDSN and the good ID with all of the correct information. Now we'll go ahead and hit complete surgery. Oh, before I do that, I would also like to mention, I'm going to use my fingers for this. We can pinch and zoom if we want to focus on specific areas and regions, and we have either a side trigger here to manage the zoom, or we can do pinch and zoom, kind of like your cell phone. We have a discarded bin, so if we have an issue come up where, say, this cross connector broke or was faulty or didn't need to be implanted, well, what we can do is we can drag that into the discarded bin, and you'll see that it gets removed from the region, and now it's in the discarded bin. Say that we made a mistake and that the nurse actually wanted it in a different part, well, we can restore that immediately back to the unassigned bin, and then we can reassign it in the correct zone. So let's now complete the surgery. So are we sure? Yes, we're sure. So what we can see here is our pre-surgery notes, hello world, and we can say hi back. And all of this information gets pushed to the patient's EHR file. Currently we're working with Epic for full integration, but it's important to note that as we develop more relationships and as we work with additional EHR providers, that we have a roadmap within the next 90 days for full implementation in other EHR systems such as Cerner. So here we have an implanted region, sort of an item, which shows where were items placed and what was their status. So if you assigned, say, that interbody spacer, region 72 is going to say region 72 dash, say, C6. We're finishing up that in the software right now, just adding human names rather than software names, and then the status. And this gives a nice and easy breakdown of everything that was used during the surgery that ultimately ended up in the human body. Now, for our future designs and for just having supreme documentation, we also have a scan items section. And this is important because say that there were items that were scanned but never implanted, or that there were items that ended up getting discarded but are still going to be billed for, or essentially anything that pertains to the case and the parts surrounding the patient. Well, now all of those items are going to show whether or not it was implanted, if it was discarded, or if it was just ultimately unassigned. And after all of that's validated and the nurse goes through and everything looks good, a case number is generated. And the tablet, for our tablet design, is set up essentially to be always running, self-sufficient, and so we can just return to the home screen and we're back where we started. Now, as Larry also alluded to earlier in this call, and to finish up, let's say that you want to go on ahead and pull from a pre-assigned or a pre-filled case to save even more OR time so it doesn't have to be entered. Well, we also offer the ability to find an existing case, being able to find all of the information with that case, and that ties directly in with our central server database, which allows for an analytical breakdown of the parts used, the doctor time, or rather the surgeon time, and parts fulfillment and parts ordering. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Larry.
All right, thank you, Brandon. So that's an overview of the software. Briefly, where we see this going is kind of start and finish. Manufacturers can install a scanner on their production lines, and that will serve two purposes. The first is to verify that barcode or data matrix is readable at the end user level rather than under optimal conditions. And the second is to allow them to enter it into to start their pedigree program for chain of custody, and that will virtually eliminate the $10 billion of counterfeit medical devices that are flooded into the market every year, because once you input that unique device into the chain of custody, then it can be followed through distribution into hospital central supply and ultimately into the patient with a final scan. So recently there was a big story about Spinal Solutions that did get a FDA 510K, but they decided that they would make more money by producing their implants at a machine shop. And so even in that case, we have technology that may be able to track where the scanner is located. So if they move it from one spot to the next, then we would know that and potentially could alert the FDA that there may be a manufacturing irregularity. In addition, the information that's pushed after surgery may be, the manufacturers would like it not only for the counterfeit but also for the opportunity to identify exactly which items were used, so they can generate an invoice for those items, speeding up payment. Hospitals sit on bills, their invoices, until they can collect all the information from the manufacturer, and then this manual input by multiple people is eliminated, so they can get their bill out to the payer as well. So just a general overview. There are many more opportunities there, but what I'd like to do is open it up for questions. I know you probably have a lot of questions at this point. Thank you.
Hi, Larry, excellent presentation. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the attendees? It's going to be kind of hard to regulate it, so first one in, first one out.
Good morning. This is go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, this is Dave Coons with Zebra. Thanks for the presentation. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you are working with the EMR companies like Epic to do the integration? And for example, are there pre-existing places for all the UDI information in the EMR database and how are you making sure that the fields all line up?
Hi, so this is Brennan Donnelly. That's an excellent question, and really what we're discovering is that it varies from EHR to EHR, and in the case of Epic, we're having to essentially work with their software engineers to ensure that our software communicates effectively in being able to put all of the implant and UDI information accordingly into the patient chart. So that's going to be something that is custom to the Matrix medical software. However, I can say that they are looking, along with other manufacturers at this time, or sorry, other EHR providers such as Cerner at this time, to have those fields built out into the EHR platform to allow for a greater adoption and for inventory management downstream.
As an example, Epic did not have the capability to collect the information and put it into a patient chart and then parse it by the type of implant, whether it was implanted, where it went in the body, was it discarded, why was it discarded, was it because of a fitment issue, was it because of a manufacturer's defect, that sort of thing. So we've been working with them to identify these areas and then have them build their software in order to accommodate the information that we collect and push.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is that complete at this point for Epic, or is it still in development?
So right now our system fully integrates with Epic, and the only kind of lag time is that there would be a 48 to 72 hour integration period with our software engineers, just because Epic and other EHR systems kind of vary from hospital level to hospital level, and we have to do a little bit of tweaking and customization to meet every client's needs, especially depending on the version that they're using and any of the network parameters surrounding that.
So where the company is now, we've completed the Epic integration, and our next step is to get into hospitals to test the system and make sure that the ports are open and that there's full communication inside of the hospital system. So we're working with some other organizations and so hospitals and manufacturers to do in-hospital testing. That's our next level at this point.
Okay, thanks.
If I could, hi, this is Artie. If I could follow up on Dave's question there. Part of the struggle that we're dealing with is that when you scan a UDI barcode, you're getting various data elements. So you may be getting a UDI, you may be getting an expiration date, then a lot number, and possibly a serial number. This is all often embedded into that barcode. And a question for us is, do you then take that entirety of that barcode and pass it between systems? Or do you parse it to its elements and then pass those elements to the other systems, and you do so in XML format? I know it's getting real geek, but it is an area that we're all struggling with. So what, in your opinion, is the best way to take it from the moment of scan and provide it to the consuming systems downstream?
Well, Artie, you got the right geek right here. I'm going to turn it over to Brandon for that answer.
You know, that it's questions like these that make me love my job some days. But
there you go.
So let me go on ahead and first preface this by saying that we're currently working with GS1 to ensure that all medical providers are kind of adhering to a standard of data, and that the barcodes are in a specified format. And so if anybody has questions on how that format works, or kind of the, I would say, information behind that, I would highly suggest reaching out to them. I believe that Beth Gibson's on the call. She's more than intelligent and more than capable of answering and fielding any of those questions, and has been an excellent asset to us. And the way that our software works is we take the full barcode or data matrix code data and we parse it into our system in an intelligent format. Now, we have a proprietary system that we built that is kind of a hub and spoke system for data communication. So we can send data either in the parsed or raw data to upstream or to downstream providers, be it other supply chain management companies or be it for analytics companies, and that really doesn't matter too much to us. Our software is currently built to identify with the GDSN by GS1 and also connect the UDI database for part validation. However, again, to ensure that we have an intelligently learning system, because we know in a perfect world, especially while the UDI is fully being realized, that there are going to be other device manufacturers that use their own proprietary barcode system or own proprietary marking system. And for that, our software actually has a intelligently learning and adaptive system, kind of like what I was mentioning. Once an unknown item is flagged, we're able to figure out what that item is. We're able to understand the data format that the manufacturer has used, and we're able to reference and cross-reference that with the GDSN and with the UDI database. And that way, in the future, if that item with that proprietary barcode format gets scanned, say, by our non-sterile scanner or by our sterile scanner, it'll pop up and it'll parse the information correctly with the information that's on the GDSN and the UDI database. So it really kind of allows individuals to adapt and to modify and to get that information in whatever format that they'd like. I know that people have often asked, well, what format can you send it to? Are you going to do an HL7v2 format for data communication? Are you going to send it as a XML, as a comma-separated value? And I simply give a very vague answer and just say yes. Yes, we can send it in whatever format that you like. We have dedicated software engineers that have ensured and have the ability to make sure that we can send the data in whatever format that you'd like, however you'd like, to make sure that it can integrate with your system. And that's one of the features that we're very proud to tout and is part of our hub and spoke data communication system.
Terrific, thank you. I have 1,000 more, but I'm going to be quiet and let others ask a few questions.
Excellent.
Anybody else?
Please, yes. This is George Wright, Brandon. I'm past chair of the committee and one of the principals of product identification. I think I heard you imply, if not actually say, and so to follow up on Artie's question, I want to drill down. Does your system, in fact, capture and retain the full UDI in its raw, original form?
So to answer your question again with my favorite answer and to be vague about it, yes.
Okay. This is Larry. It does collect the DI and the PI. All of the information is collected. If it's in a format that's not recognized by the three primary organizations, then it'll collect that data, look at the data, make sure that the date's in the right spot, the serial number's in the right spot, and we can either change it to a GS1 format as an example, or just leave it in the raw data. And then as we identify these manufacturers that are not compliant, we can reach out to them and let them know that their data is falls outside of one of the existing standards, so they can work on putting it inside of that standard.
Okay, fair point, Larry, but I press this point because I know FDA has a particular interest in this, and it's not that there's one way to do it or one right way and one wrong way, but very specifically, if you make or when you make a scan of a data carrier of a barcode, whatever the format, compliant or not, is there, as a matter of record, is it a foundational principle that your database captures and stores that complete string as part of what you do, irrespective of what you can and do with it downstream? Do you have, as a matter of record, that single scan unadulterated?
Yes, I see where you're going, and the answer to that is yes. It's nice to correct something, but you also need to keep the original format as well documented, that it came across in this particular format. So the answer is yes. We keep a record of the format that it came across at, as well as the corrected format, so it can be used to process claims or to memorialize where an implant went. So the answer to your question is yes, both options.
Okay. Yes, all right, thank you. Just to follow up, I unfortunately am traveling, don't have access to the video presentation. Your scanner, per se, is that, I couldn't see it, is it a commercial unit? Do you buy it from an established manufacturer? Do you buy components and custom build it under your own brand name? What is the basis of your scanning, your 2D imager?
It's comprised of multiple different technologies out there, including the most recent Bluetooth that just came out, but we've identified existing technology out there, and we have kind of reprogrammed it, so to speak. As an example, we use a high-speed camera, and the way that it was set up in the first place would not be appropriate for this use. So we reprogrammed the firmware in order to be able to read very, very small data matrix codes on multiple different surfaces. So if it's shiny plastic, matte plastic, titanium, anodized, stainless steel, we have the ability to read all of that. And each of the parts, we've got exclusive agreements with our downstream providers, and then we assemble the units and test them after they've been assembled, and then they're ready for installation either at the manufacturer or the hospital level.
Okay, so put another way, this is not a product that one could go out and buy from Zebra or Cognex or, you know, the traditional automatic identification data capture scanner suppliers. Is that fairly stated?
That's accurate. It must come from us.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Other questions? All right. While folks are formulating questions, I have a couple. You said that there's an automated check against GDSN and the Good ID. Not everyone's going to be in GDSN, but everybody must be in Good ID. Well, like all of the newer stuff must be in Good ID. What is the reaction of your software if it does not find an entry in the Good ID?
Excellent question. And kind of as I was going through the software and there was an unknown item, that's essentially, we don't want to interrupt the flow of an operation because something hasn't been found and we can't document it. So let's say that you scan something and for whatever reason it's not in the good ID. Well, we have two ways of setting up the information. Either A, we can establish that it's an unknown or unentered part, which I would imagine would be for early builds of the software, and that would be to ensure that we can capture and set up a system of cross-referencing. And the software would just simply say unknown item, and then it would have the information on the data matrix code. Or alternatively, if the hospital is concerned with counterfeits, then if an unknown item scans up and a device pedigree cannot be verified, then it'll say unknown item, do you wish to proceed, or it'll create some sort of flag. Interestingly enough, it takes a picture of the item itself, which can also be captured for future validation and documentation. And that kind of plays into, and to kind of simplify my answer, we will scan an item. If it doesn't appear on the good ID, it'll say unknown item, and the software will cross-reference and validate it for future use if it is a valid item, or if it has been flagged as a potential counterfeit item, then we'll have essentially a database record and an image of what this counterfeit item looks like.
And just to clarify that, again, using Spinal Solutions, a large hospital system sent a letter out to all of the patients that they thought may have gotten one of these counterfeit devices, but they said, we're not sure if you got it or not. Well, that photo could be used for forensic to analyze if somehow it got into the supply chain, and is it a real item or not a real item, because we have a photo of the actual implant that was ultimately implanted.
Great. What we've been talking so far about is direct part marking, where the device itself is marked, and in all of your examples, it's a 2D barcode. There are many cases where the parts, such as screws in a trauma situation or orthopedic situation, that the screw itself is far too small to direct mark. And industry is struggling with how to deal with that, especially in kits and things like that. Have you encountered any use cases where the device is inside a baggie with a paper label on it? And two-part question, it's not always data matrix or 2D. It may be a linear barcode on a baggie that's identifying a particular screw. Do you have any use cases for how to deal with that?
We have a few different scenarios. First of all, we have a sterile scanner, and that bag may not be introduced into the sterile field. So we also have a non-sterile scanner that can read linear codes, 2D, QR, pretty much any of the other codes. So in that case, the nurse would scan the label, open up the bag, and then introduce that item into the sterile field for implantation. We're also working on vision recognition technology that hopefully, if everything works out, we'll be able to look at an item and say, oh, that is a pedicle screw manufactured by Royal Oak. It's a 3.2 millimeter, 0.2 millimeter pitch screw. That technology, we're just starting that technology, but those are things that are coming down the pike. In the meantime, our goal by the end of the year is to be able to get to about 1/2 of a millimeter, and also we're working on stitching technology that can read around a corner as well. So, for instance, if you can put something on a wire, like NASA does this today, they identify every single thing that goes into a spaceship, and some of it is, it'll go around a wire. Then ultimately we'll be able to kind of turn that wire around, and the technology remembers each, kind of like a panorama view in your camera. You know, you want to see from one side of the landscape to the next, then it stitches the barcode or the data matrix together to form a final data matrix, for instance, and then collects the information from it. So we're working on the vision technology, we're working on the stitching. Right now we have the capability to go down to 1 millimeter square, both from a non-sterile and a sterile standpoint. So if it's packaged, it stays outside of the sterile field until the device is identified and open. If it's a sterile item by itself, like a pedicle screw, then it's scanned by the sterile scanner. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, and a great answer. Any other questions? We have 6 minutes. I have one.
Anybody else? This is George. You've mentioned a couple of times a 1 millimeter symbol resolution. If that symbol was comprised of 10 rows or 10 columns, that would be a 100 micron cell size. Is that correct?
I know where you're going, George, and that's one of the limitations right now of the existing format of the data matrix, and this is where we're particularly interested in working with companies like GS1 and the FDA, because the amount of information that can be fit into a 1 millimeter square data matrix is about 17 characters. There are other data matrix formats that can fit more data into that data matrix. So in that case, either the data matrix would have to be changed depending upon the size of it, or what we're hoping for as a temporary solution is to be able to put a reference number that can cross-reference with that particular device lot number. You're not going to be able to get the serial number in there, but at least using the current GS1 data standard today, you could put a reference number in there, and that reference number cross-references, and it could go down to a lot number but not a serial number, unless the data format is changed to allow for increased data inside of the data matrix. Does that make sense?
Yes. I mean, that really wasn't where I'm going. I'm a purist at the moment and want to see the regulation that's been written get implemented, and if there are physical limitations, so be it. I was just trying to get down to a more understandable parameter. When we talk about how small a symbol is, it's fine to say, well, we can scan a symbol as small as 3 millimeters square, but that doesn't tell anybody how big the matrix of the symbol is. You know, is it 12 by 12 or is it 20 by 20? That's a huge difference in the resolution of the size. So I was trying to understand what the actual cell size is that you all are referring to as the smallest that you can resolve. And that was one point. I just want to make the other one quickly. I'm always worried when scanner manufacturers start talking about, you know, grading barcodes in a production environment. Verification properly understood requires specific angles of illumination of a specific wavelength, and when scanner manufacturers start offering up grades for barcodes and intimating or even stating flatly that this is a predictor of the scannability in the field, if you're doing that with the best scanner in the world, you know, arguably yours might be one of them, not everybody else has such a good tool. Verification really needs to be used properly and be done in the appropriate quote-unquote laboratory environment that fully stipulates the parameters so that customers aren't misled about, you know, what the quality of the mark is.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying. So to answer your first question, the smallest today of the actual image data matrix is 1 millimeter. To follow up on the grading, we don't grade anything. What we do is collect the error correction information. So if it's a perfect grade A scan with 0 errors, and I think that the GS1 error correction is like 32% or something like that. We can collect how much of that data matrix had an error in it, and that information can be sent back to interested parties in order to improve the quality of the data matrix. But we don't grade, we don't make recommendations. We have nothing to do with that. Although we can collect how much of the data matrix could not be read and was corrected inside of that GS1 data matrix format.
Okay, Brendan, that's perfectly legitimate. You know, tracking unused error correction is a valuable parameter to keep track of.
Thank you, everyone. I think it was Larry King who said for the full hour, and we have used the full hour. It's been a terrific presentation, a lot of good information. We will quite probably post this on the AIM website as a recording. Gentlemen from Matrix IT, thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation. And if we can be of any assistance from the AIM Healthcare Committee, please call upon us. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.